Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be building up this design. So we have a title here, we have some cards, and then when you scroll to the bottom we have a chart that is generated using chart.js. So we're going to be generating this chart as well, and then this application is going to be multi-page. So we're going to have a total of 6 pages here. So we are currently on the home page, which is also the overview page, and when you click on the project page, then it's going to take us into the project page. So here it says project overview, where we have a description here, and then we have like just an image on the right which spans 2 grids. And then when you go into the documents page, then you're going to find documents, obviously, proposal terms and so on and so forth. And this is all basically UI, like none of this works actually. And then when you go into the progress page, then we're going to have a progress title here. We're going to have some bit of text here and there, and then we're going to have some tabs that we're going to create. So currently we are on the define tab, which is this one here. But when you click on the research, then you're going to say research. When you click on ideation here, then you're going to have the ideation. When you click on prototyping, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be creating these tabs, and perhaps I'm going to add a bit more information so that this doesn't look all like just like skeleton like, And then when you go into assets, then we're going to have some bits of images here, 20 images to be exact, which are coming from an API called JSON placeholder. And I chose that one specifically because it is very easy to use and it is free and it requires no setup. And I initially wanted to implement the Unsplash API here, but it involves a bit more setup, which I did not want. So we're going to be using the JSON placeholder to generate these images, which are 150 by 150. And then we have the apps page here, which is just going to be kind of like a settings page, where like if you go into a dashboard, then it would ask you to like to connect your Google Analytics account and so on and so forth. So that is basically what we have as the apps page. Now, all these images that you're seeing here, these icons are generated from React icons. So even these ones here, they are generated from React icons, and even the ones on the documents here, as well as, where is it? As well as these icons here, they are all generated from React icons. So we're going to be using a number of packages here. We're going to be building this in React. So we're going to use React icons for our icons. We're going to be using React Router DOM for our routing. We're going to be using Tailwind CSS to style everything out. And we're going to be using chart.js to generate this chart because it looks cool on the homepage. So that is a pretty nice project, and I actually like how it turned out. And believe it or not, I actually built this project at about between 10 p.m. and midnight last night, and last night was the 23rd of November. So now I'm just recording a video so that I can show you how I did it, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, then please leave a like on the video. I will appreciate it very much, and subscribe to the channel as well if you're not already. And let's begin. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my terminal, and then I'm going to cd into my desktop and into a folder that is called YT videos that I have created on my desktop. And then inside here, I'm going to create a new React application. So I'm going to say npx create React app, and then I'm going to call this client dashboard -yt. And I forgot to mention that I've already deployed this to GitHub, and I've also deployed it to Netlify. So what we're going to be building in this video, I'm not going to be deploying it anywhere, but I'm going to leave a link in the description for the GitHub repository, as well as this link inside here so that you can access it. And then one more thing is that this is completely responsive, by the way. So if you can scroll down, you can see that now we have 2 grids here. We have our navbar, which opens up, as you can see, and the chart is also responsive. And then when you continue to scroll down right here, now we have 1 grid, and so on and so forth. And then if you navigate into another page, then you can see that it is also responsive here. The documents page is also responsive. We have the progress page also being responsive. We have the assets, and then finally we have the apps page also completely responsive. So we're going to build all of this out, and I hope it turns out to be a good video. So I'm going to let this run, and then once it finishes running, then we are going to continue. So now that this has finished running, what I'm going to do is I want to open up Visual Studio Code into this folder. So I'm going to say code client dashboard YT. And then once this opens up, then we're going to go ahead and begin installing dependencies. So Control J to open up your terminal. And then what we want to install, we're going to install, so npm install, we want to install the React icons. We want to install React router DOM. We also want to install chat.js, and then we want to install React chat.js 2. I think that is the name of the React chat.js. It doesn't have a hyphen in the middle. So let's go ahead and install all of these dependencies. And then as they install, then we also need to install Tailwind CSS. So let me go ahead into the Tailwind docs so that we can install this. So Tailwind CSS. And then into the framework guides and into create React app. And then we can just copy this part, and then we wait for this to finish. And then we can begin installing Tailwind CSS as well. There we go. So paste it in, and then copy this part and paste it in as well. So paste it in, which is going to install, which is going to generate the Tailwind config and post CSS config files. And then we can copy this part, and inside our Tailwind config, then we can paste it inside here. And then we can go ahead and copy these 3 lines for the index CSS. So inside our source and index CSS, we can paste it on top of this. There we go. And then now we can run npm start. But before we do that, we are going to be using a font inside here from Google Fonts. So let me go ahead and get the font. So inside fonts.google.com, and the font is called Neonito. Let me see. There we go. So this one here, we're going to be using this font. So copy, click on this, not copy, and then we're going to be using the regular 400 as well as the bold 700, So using the import tab, let's go ahead and copy this part, and then we can paste it on top of this. And then let's go ahead and remove all of this, we don't need it. And then let's specify the font family to have a font called, what is it, Neonito, with a fallback of sans serif. And then let's remove this, we don't need it. And then let's add in some more global styles. Let's specify that all the images should have a max width of 100%, so that they take up 100% of the container in which they are placed without overflowing. And then let's also specify a width of 100% on the images. And what else do we need to do? We need to specify for the headings. So H1, H2, H3, H4s, H5s, and H6. We're going to use a Tailwind directive called apply, and we're going to apply a text of slate of 800 with a drop shadow large, so that it has, let me show you. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks as if like it is blurred just a bit behind each of the headings. So that is the drop shadow that we're going to have. And then we're going to specify the font sizes when we are defining them in our application. And then let's go ahead and also specify for the paragraphs, and one for the paragraphs and the list items as well. Let's go ahead and say at apply, and we're going to apply a text of slate 600. And then below this, I'm going to specify a line height of 1.8, and that's looking okay. And then let's save this, and then let's do a bit of cleanup before we can run our server. So let's delete the app CSS, the app test.js, the logo, report web vitals, and the setup tests. We can delete them. And then inside our index.js, we can remove this part because we've deleted this file. And then let's remove this as well. And then inside our app.js, let's just remove everything inside here. And then let's say export default function app. And then let's just return, an h1 that says hello world, and save it. You can remove this space. And then once we have that, then let's go ahead inside our public folder, and let's delete this favicon and delete these 2 logos as well as the manifest JSON. And then inside the index HTML, then we're going to remove this comment up to here. So remove this link for the manifest as well. And then let's change this title to say client dashboard. And then let's remove this comment here. And then we are going to change the theme color as well as this description, but for now they can just remain as they are. And then once we have that, then let me see. I think we are good to go. But before I run our server, then I want to mention that I'm going to be using an extension called ES7 plus React Redux React Native snippets, and that is just going to help me to like generate code snippets so that I don't have to keep on repeating things that I'm writing every single time, you know. Like I can just run this command and it's going to generate all of this automatically so that I don't have to keep on writing all of this every single time when we are creating our pages. So you can go ahead and install it. It is called ES7 React Redux and React Native snippets. And then once you install it, then we are going to be good to go. But for now, let me go ahead and just say npm run start. And then as our server starts up, then we are going to go inside our source folder and we're going to create a new folder called components. And then inside the source folder, once again, we're going to create another folder called pages. And then you know what, we also need another folder called images, and the images folder is only going to have this single image, so only this image. And you know what, I can just go ahead and save this image. And so I have my image placed inside my images folder and I've called it projects.png. And let me show you how you're going to get this image. In the description, I have linked my GitHub profile. So if you go into my GitHub profile, there is a repository that is called client dashboard. If this is going to load, what's wrong? Okay, so there's a repository called client dashboard, and so this is the repository that is going to be linked in the description. And if you go into the source folder here and then inside the images folder, then you are going to get the projects.png file, which you can just go ahead and download right from here. So just right click and say save image, or you can use this download button to download it. And that is basically the image that we're going to be using for our projects page. And so next, what we're going to do is, I think I can begin to set up React Rotterdam, because we have our pages folder and we have our components folder. Now we're going to be having two components, and the first component that we're going to have is the header.js file, so header.js. And inside this file, I'm just going to say RFC. Once again, it comes from the extension that is called ES7 plus React Redux. You can see that when I type in RFC, okay, my computer is hanging. So you can see that when I type in RFC, then it gives me this drop down. So this is all coming from the extension, all of this. So if you want a function component with export down here, and if you want the export default to be on top, and if you want an arrow function, so RAFCE, and so on and so forth, then you can do all that. I just like using RFC, so that's what I'm going to do in my header. And for now, this is just how it's going to be. And then I'm going to create another component that is called chat.js, and chat.js is going to be our chat, which is inside here. So this one is going to be our chat. And then once you have that, then I want to begin to set up all these pages that we're going to have. So inside my pages folder, we are going to create 6 pages. So the first one is going to be called overview.js, and then the second one is project, so project.js, not sj. And then the third one is called documents, so documents.js. And then progress, assets, and apps, so progress.js, and then assets.js, and then apps.js, so apps.js. And then inside each of these pages, and I think, yeah, let me start from the chat. I'm going to say RFC and then just enter, and then inside app.js just RFC and then enter, and then inside assets RFC, enter, save, documents RFC, enter, save, overview RFC, enter, save, progress RFC, enter, save, and then finally inside projects, so RFC, enter, and save. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to set up React Rotterdam inside my app.js. So inside my parent app.js, I want to set up app.js so that we can handle our internal routing inside our application. And so what I'm going to do therefore is this. On the top, I'm going to import I'm going to import browser router, so browser router, and then I'm going to import routes and route from React route DOM. And then all of this, now we're going to set up our routing. So I'm going to drop my entire component inside browser router. And then on top here, we're going to render our header. And the reason why I'm rendering our header on top is because I want the header to appear on every single page. So for example, if I navigate into the project folder, then we still have our header and inside the documents folder and so on and so forth. So the header is always going to be permanent on top. And that's why I want it to be rendered outside of the routes component, because now when we render our routes component, which is going to be the parent of each of the links that we're going to have in our application, then I can render a single route here, for example, to have a path of /, and then the element that I want to render is the overview. So this is going to be our home page, so the overview. And by the way, if it doesn't auto import it for you on top here, what you can do is you can go to the end of the component and then just say control spacebar, and then it is going to give you a drop down if it is not imported on top, and then you can just say enter, and it's going to auto import it on top. So that is what I'm doing here, so that I don't have to import them manually on top. So now when I save this, then we should only be able to see overview in our application. So we should see overview if this reloads. Let it reload. And the reason why we see overview is because we are currently on the / page. So on the / is currently the home page, and we're saying that the home page is going to be rendering the overview component, and we know that the overview component currently is just rendering a div which says overview. So that now when this reloads, if it reloads anytime today, come on, and there we go, we can see that now it renders our header, of course, because the header once again is going to appear on every page, and then it renders the overview which says only overview. Now if I were to disable this, then we would not see the header on top. Okay, and also if I were to remove it from here, so let me just disable it, and then if I were to render it inside the home page only, then what would happen is this: I'm going to render a fragment because you can only return one item, and then I'm going to render the header, and then I'm also going to render the overview. Now what is going to happen is the header and overview are only going to appear on the home page, which is the path of /. Now if I go ahead and create another route with a path that goes into, the second link should be project, so the link goes into project, and then the element that I want to render is project. Now what is going to happen is this, come on, there we go. So what is going to happen is this: if I navigate into the / project, then what we're going to see on the screen is only project without the header. So if I say enter and we go into the / project, you can see that we only have project showing here and we don't have the header. Now that is not what we want to happen for our user experience. That's why the header is going to be removed from here, and it is only going to be rendered on the top as one element, and then we can remove this fragment here so that the overview is only going to be one element as well, so that now when I save this, then the header is also going to appear here in the project. And that is basically what we're going to do for the rest of our routes. Now let me go ahead and create them. So just copy this downwards 4 more times, so 1 2 3 4, and then this is going to render documents, and then the element is going to show the document. Is it document or documents? Should be documents. Yes, documents. And why doesn't this import? There we go. And then the next one should say, what is it, progress. So progress, it's / progress with a small p, and then this should say progress, and then import it. And then the next one says assets, and then import it. And then the next one says apps, and then import it. And then the link for this says apps. This one should go into / assets, and there we go. So this is going to be the routing for our application, so that now when I save this, then all these routes are going to be functioning correctly, such that when you go ahead and try to go into / assets, then we should see assets here. When you go into apps, then we should see apps, because that is all that the pages are rendering currently. So I'm going to go back into our / so that we can begin building our home page. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the overview.js, and then I'm going to remove this div so that we can return a fragment, and then inside this fragment I'm going to return a section. Now what I'm going to do is I want to create a custom class which is going to be used throughout our application, and that class is called maxWidth, meaning we're going to be applying a max width on all our applications so that this doesn't go all the way to the end. And the max width is just to limit everything. You see how this is limited to the center of the screen. It doesn't go to the edges of the screen. And then when I try to scroll out, meaning to simulate bigger device widths, you can see that it is all limited here. And even the header is also limited to this, except that the background color for the header spans the entire header, the entire width of the device. So, and this is for all the pages, by the way. So even if you go into project, then it is also limited, into documents, also limited, progress, and so on and so forth. And that is basically the UI that we want. And so what I'm going to do to create this class is this. I'm going to go inside my index.css, and inside my index.css, I'm going to go below this, and I'm going to create a class called .maxWidth. And then I'm going to use a tailing directive called apply, and I'm going to say apply a max width of 7xl and then mx auto, so that it applies an equal margin on the left and right, meaning it's going to push everything to the center so that it is not aligned to the left. So that now when I save this, and not before I save it, actually let me apply a padding on the x of 5, so that on small screens then the content is not on the edges. And then for the padding of the top and bottom, I think we're going to apply them later once we see how it behaves on the screen. So let me go ahead and save this. And then what I'm going to do is inside my overview, I'm going to give this section a class name of maxWidth. And then below this, I'm going to render an H1 with a couple of styles, but because each page is going to have an H1, I don't want to keep on repeating the same styles for the H1. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to style the H1 for all the pages. So above this, I'm going to style the H1, and I'm going to say at apply, and I'm going to say apply a text of 4XL for small screens, or let me say 3XL for small screens. And then for large screens, then apply a text of 4XL, and then change the color to slate 800, and then apply a drop shadow of large here. And then actually not, this style and this style are already applied here, so we don't need to add them here. Oops, we can remove them from here. And then what else do we need to do? I don't think there's anything else, by the way, but let me just have that. So let me save this, and then inside this H1, let me just render welcome back, and then let me pass in my name, and then let me see how it looks on the screen here, and we should have this. And now what I've just realized is we need this font to be bold. And so for all the headings here, I'm just going to say font bold, so font dash bold for all the headings, because I want all the headings to be bold in font, and we are going to have that. That is looking quite nice. And then the next thing, now that we are inside our index.css, the next thing that I want to apply is the background color that we have inside here, which is like a slight blue. So let me go ahead and get the hex value for that background color, because I've forgotten it. And so inside here, I have an extension that is called color picker eyedropper. So I'm just going to activate it, and I can see that the color for this is F0, F6, FC. So just copy, and then I'm going to go inside my body and give it a background color of this, paste it in and save it, and it should change inside here. There we go, looking nice. Now I've just realized that now that I've rendered the H1 here, then I want to apply some bit of margin on the top as well as on the bottom. And so what I'm going to do therefore is this. On this very same class of max width, I'm going to apply a padding Y of 10. And then let me see how this looks here. Padding Y of 10 might be okay. It might be okay, but I can't really tell because we don't have other elements of the screen. And so in order to have other elements, let's go ahead and continue to build out this UI here. So these three articles. So inside our overview.js, let's go below this and let's create a div. And then inside this div, we're going to have articles. And then each of these articles is going to be this white article that we're seeing inside here, this white card. And so we're going to build out this first one, and then we're going to do some copying and pasting for these other two that are remaining inside here. And so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and get this icon, and then we're going to have 25,000 as the starting budget inside here. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to render an H2 that says $25000, and then below this I'm going to say paragraph and say starting budget. And then above this, I'm going to render an icon that is called AI outline credit card. So credit card. And these are icons that I got beforehand so that I don't have to go into React icons and choose icons for like 15 minutes, you know. And all of these icons, you can get them in the repository. By the way, they are all available in the repository. And then let's go ahead and import this from React icons. So I'm going to say import AI outline credit card from React icons / AI. Remember, we installed React icons, so that now when I save this, then we should be able to see our first article here. If it is going to show up, there we go. So that is our first article, which we are going to style next. And you know what, let me grab this icon and place it inside a button, because I want to be able to apply some padding on the button so that this moves like inwards. It looks as though it is rounded with some kind of background color. And so what I'm going to do therefore is this. So inside this button, I'm going to give this button a class name of bg emerald -100 with some padding of 2 all round with a slight box shadow and then rounded full. And then when I save this, then we should be able to see something here. There we go. And then now I'm going to go inside our icon here and change the class name, change the color here to text emerald -400, which is going to change the color of our icon. There we go. And then let's go inside this article and give this a class name of bg white and padding all round of 8. And then let's give it a rounded border radius, and then let's give it a shadow of large. And then let's save this, and then let's see what we have on the screen. We should have that. There we go, looking nice. And then let's go inside this h2, give this a class name of text-xl with a margin on the y of 4 to separate it out from the top and bottom. And then when I save this, then we should have this on the screen. Let's make this bigger. Let's make this 4xl. And there we go. Would you look at that? That's looking nice. And you know what? Let me increase the margin on the top. So instead of having margin y here, let me have margin on the top of 6 and then margin bottom of 4. There we go. There we go. I think that looks much better. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this article downwards 2 more times. So copy and paste it 1 and paste it for the second time. And then this is going to be like some kind of other number. I think I used 50 30, so 50 and 30. And then this is going to be, what did I have as a text? Total spend. So total spend. And then the icon for this is called AI outline arrow. What is it? Arrow up. There we go. And then let's remember to import it here. Okay, it auto imported this time. And then let me see. I don't think we're changing anything here, but let's go ahead and delete this third article as well. And the icon for this third article is called AI outline calendar. So outline calendar. There we go. And there we go. It has auto imported it on the top as well. And then this should say what did this say? 21 June 2022. So 21st June 2022. And then this says, I think it says due date. So due date, launch date. Okay. Launch date. There we go. So now I'm going to save this, and then we should be able to see our 3 articles here. So there we go, looking nice. Except that now I should change this color to purple. I think I used purple here. So let's go ahead and change this color to purple. And so change this into purple 400. So purple 400. And then change this to purple 100 as well. So save this, and this should also change. Fantastic. And then now all you need to do is render 1 grid for small screens. So this is how it looks on small screens. And then on large screens, we want to render 2 grids here and then 3 grids here. So what we're going to do therefore is this. We're going to go inside this parent div, and we're going to give this a class name of grid and grid columns -1 with a gap of 8. So on small screens, this is how it's going to look, separated out with a gap of 8 here. And then we're going to say that for medium screens, then we want the grid columns to be 2. And then for large screens, we want the grid columns to be 3. So that now when I save this one, you should see 3 grids here. And then when you go into tablet size screens right around here, we see 2 grids. And then on mobile screens, we see 1 grid. So just like that, we've already added responsiveness as we want. And then the next that we're going to do is add a margin on the top of this. Or you know what, I can just go inside the H1 and add a margin on the H1. So inside the H1, give this a class name of margin bottom of 10 to push away from this here. And there we go, looking nice. And so once we have that, then next let's go ahead and deal with our chart that is going to appear here. So we are going to go, and let me just go outside of this div, and then let me render a chart component. And remember, we already created our chart component inside our components folder here, and then just remember to auto import it on the top here as well and render it here. So we have our chart, so that when I save this, then we should see chart somewhere here. So we have chart there. And then what I'm going to do is, and you know what, let me do this. Let me render the chart inside a div, so that now I can go inside this div and add a class name of margin top of 20 to push it away from this part here, so that now it pushes downwards. And then now let's go ahead and render our chart. And so for our chart, we are going to have the following. Inside our chart.js, we are going to import a bar chart from reactjs2. Remember, this is the dependency that we installed in the beginning. So if you go into your package JSON, you're going to find the dependency here that is called react chart.js here. And we also installed chart.js here as well. These two dependencies are needed in order to render our bar graph. And so what we're going to do is this. We're going to import the bar from react chart.js, and then we're going to import a few other things which I wrote down. So let me just check my cheat sheet. So it says import chart as chart.js, and then import category scale, and then import linear scale, and then bar element, and then import the title and import the tooltip. And this is all coming from chart.js. There we go. And then we're going to say chart.js.register, and then we're going to register the category scale. We're going to register the linear scale. We register the bar element, and then the title, and then the tooltip. There we go. And then once we have that, then we need to create the state for our chart. So the state meaning basically all of this that is rendered here. So we're going to create this state, as well as the numbers here are going to be dependent on the state that we have. And then the labels on below here are going to be the days of the week, just because I chose the days of the week. So if you want the months of the year, you can also use this if you want. And so we're going to do this. We're going to say const state is equal to, and then we're going to say the labels are going to be, the labels can type are going to be, oops, here's an array, and we're going to say Monday, and then Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. And then once we have that, then we need to pass in the data sets that are going to be used by our chart. And the data set basically is going to be how the chart is going to be plotted. And we're going to say this. We're going to say that the label for this is going to be empty, because we don't want any label. And then the background color, meaning the background color for the default color that is appearing here, which is like a soft red. We're going to set this into HSL, and the soft red that I used was 79%. 79%, can type, and then 65% for the HSL color. And then when I hover over it, meaning when I hover over it like this, then you can see that it changes into a blue color. What I'm going to do is we're going to set a hover background color. So hover background color, and set this into HSL, and then we're going to say 186 on the hue, and then 34% on the saturation, and then 60% on the lightness, I think. And then we're going to have a border radius, and the border radius here is just like let me show you this border radius that you have on the top, a very slight border radius. So the border radius, I'm going to set it to 8. And then the data now that we're going to use, meaning the corresponding data for each day that we have here. So for Monday, we're going to have like, just, you can have random numbers if you want. I'm just going to select random numbers, and I'm going to say 18 for Monday, 35 for Tuesday, and let's say 50 for Wednesday, let's say 30 for Thursday, 23 for Friday, 43 Saturday, and 25 for Sunday. And then now what we need to do is, inside here, instead of just rendering a div, we're going to be rendering our bar element. So our bar chart really that we imported on top here. And then inside the bar chart, we're going to pass in the data, and the data that we're passing in is going to be the state that we have inside here. So state, not double T. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and ideally what should happen is we should be able to see our chart inside our application here, because we are already rendering the chart element. So let me save this, and hopefully nothing breaks, and then let's see what happens. And okay, there we go. Took a while to load in, but you can see that this is what we're going to have for our bar chart. And that's looking nice. That's looking quite nice, if I do say so myself, except that now I need this to have a white background color. So now what I'm going to do is, another reason why, by the way, I rendered the chart inside the div is so that I can go inside this div and give this div a bg of white, meaning now it's going to have a white background color inside here. You can see that. And then let's give it a padding around of 8 and a shadow of large, so that it is consistent with the styling that we had on the articles. There we go. And then I've also forgotten to add a rounded border here, so rounded border, so that these edges are rounded just a bit. Looking nice. And the goodness about ChatJS is that all their charts are responsive. So see how it looks on mobile, and then this is how it looks on desktop. So looking quite nice. Whoops, what happened? That was not supposed to happen. Let me try it again. So this is on mobile, and then why does it do this? Did I do something wrong? It wasn't doing this before. I think there's an issue with ChatJS probably. But anyway, you can see that it is responsive even on mobile, and that is looking quite nice, if I do say so myself. And then the next that I'm going to do is, we want to deal with our header so that we're able to navigate into the other pages. So what I'm going to do is this. Inside header.js, we're going to go ahead and create our header. So return a fragment first of all, and then we're going to create our header. And then inside this header, we're going to have a nav element, and then this nav element is going to have an unordered list, and then we're going to have 6 list items. So li times 6, meaning 6 list items are going to be these links that we're going to have inside here. And then these list items are going to have links, and you know what, not even links, but they're going to have nav links. And you're going to see the reason why I've chosen nav links over links in this project. And then now what we're going to do is, each of these nav links needs to have a to prop, meaning which page do you want to navigate to when you click on a certain link. So this is going to navigate into /, and then the text is going to say overview. But remember that before this text, we have an icon. So see this icon right here? We're going to be adding those icons as well. And then this text, the second nav link is going to be going into /project, and the text is going to say project. And then the third one is going to go into /documents, and then this text is going to say documents. And then the fourth one goes into / should be assets, was it, or progress, and then the text is going to say progress. And then the fifth one goes into / assets, and then this text says assets. And then finally the sixth one goes into / apps, and then this says apps. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we should be able to see this on the screen. And this is not defined. I always forget to import it, so just go inside this component and say control click, and then it's going to control spacebar, sorry, not control click, control spacebar, and then it's going to give you the drop down, and then just click on it, and it is going to auto import it on top. So save this, and we should be able to see our links here, such that now if I click into the project page, then we should see project here. If I click into documents, we have documents, and so on and so forth. And then when I click on overview, it goes back into our home page. That's looking nice, isn't it? And so now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create an array of objects for these links, just because I realize it's going to be easier than having to manually type this out if you want to add a new link, for example. So what I'm going to do is this, and just to mention it, I did not do this in the repository, so if it backfires, then I'm just going to go back to what I've done inside here. But let me just go ahead and try it. So I'm going to create an array of objects. So I'm going to say const data is equal to, and I'm going to say the title for this one is going to be overview, and then the link is going to be going into /, and then just copy this 6 more times. So let me just say shift alt and down, so 1 2 3 4 5, and then this is going to say project, and then this is going to go into /project, and then this is documents. So documents, the link is /documents, and then this is going to say progress, the link is /progress, and then this is going to say assets, the link is /assets, and then this is going to say apps, and the link is /apps. And there we go. So that now I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to remove all of this and only remain with the nav element and then the UL. And then inside the UL, I'm going to be mapping over all this data that you have. But before you can map over it, then we need to add it into our state. So we're going to create some state here. So I'm going to say const, let me say items is equal to use state, and then also import it on top, import it right here. And by the way, I'm auto importing everything and the video is not cutting. So I'm just going to the end of elements and saying control spacebar, gives me the drop down, and I just click on it and it auto imports it on the top. So the state here that we're going to have is going to be this data that we have just created. So use state by default, the data is going to be data. And then inside here, I'm going to say items.map. And then for every item that we get back, so the item object that we get back, I also want to get the index of every item, which we're going to be using as our unique key. And then I'm going to render a list item with the key of index. And then inside this list item, now we're going to have a nav link, and the nav link is going to be linking to the item dot URL, the item dot link, not dot URL. And then inside here, we're going to be rendering some text, and the text is going to say item dot title. So now when I save this, what is going to happen is nothing is going to change on the screen. So it says here cannot resolve what? React Router DOM dist DOM. What is this? No, it was because of the error that I had inside here, the thing that I accidentally typed in. Save it, and we should have this. So that now, even when I click on each of these links, you can see that nothing changes and we are still rendering the correct components. So I think this is much easier to work with, because now all I have to do is just add something new inside here and it's going to automatically add it into our navbar, and that is much better in my opinion. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to render out these icons that we have inside here. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 icons. And what I'm going to do therefore is this. Back inside our array of objects inside here, I'm going to add in a third value called icon, and then I'm going to be rendering a React component. So for example, for the overview icon, we're going to be rendering the IO person outline. And then let's also go ahead and import it. So let me say import IO person outline from React icons /IO5. Remember, this is now coming from IO5. There is IO and there's also IO5. Now this is coming from IO5. I don't know why, but for some reason IO does not work. It doesn't work. Either it is me or I'm just importing the icons wrongly. But usually I use IO5 and it always works. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this down. So copy paste it here and here and then here, oops, then here and here and then here. And then for the projects icon, we're going to be using an icon called BS Heart. So BS Heart. And then for the documents icon, we're going to be using what is called AI outline. Oops. AI outline, what is it called? File. I think that is the one. And then let's also go ahead. For this one, we're going to be using CI flag. And then for this one, we're going to say HI outline photo. And then for the last one inside here, we're going to be using an icon called Go Graph. Go Graph. And then let's go ahead and import all of these icons. So we're going to say import. Let me copy this down 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be importing the BS Heart from React icons, and this is now coming from BS. So remember to note this as well. And then the next one is going to be the AI outline file. This is the CI flag. So copy this, paste it here, and this is coming from CI. And then the next one is this one. So copy, paste it here, and this is coming from HI, and it should be HI2, I think. because I think like the numbers are just updates to it. I think that's what it is. And then this final one is going to be go graph, and then copy and paste it here, and this is coming from go. There we go. And there we go, and there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and nothing's going to change on the screen, but I'm just saving it so that we don't have any errors. And by the way, please note, when you're going to be rendering React components inside your array of objects. So for example, if I had this file, if I had this data inside a different file, and I'm rendering a React component here, always make sure that you import React on top. Otherwise, it's going to give you issues. It's going to give you issues. That is something that I experienced, and I don't know whether they fixed it in React version 18, but it's something that I tested out in version 17, and I've not really tested it out in this version yet. But if you do run into such an issue, then always check whether you have imported React on top. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And then now what I'm going to do is inside here, I'm going to render, let me see how we're going to do this. I'm going to render item.icon, and that should be fine. Just let's try it out. Let's save it, and then let me see. Okay, so CI flag was not found here, so I've imported this wrongly. So CI flag should be coming from CI. Is that not the, I don't think whether that is the right thing. So let me check React icons here. Let's check for the CI flag. Oh, CI flag 1. It is called CI flag 1. CI flag 1 here. 1. And then save it. And then let me see now. Reload this to be sure. And there we go. Would you look at that? Now we have our icons inside here. Fantastic. So let's begin to style out our header. And for the header, we're going to do the following. I'm going to go inside this header component, give this a class name of what is it, bg white, and then I'm going to give it a padding on the y of 2 and a padding on the x of 5 to push it inwards, and then I'm going to say bg white and shadow dash large, and save it, and then let's see what I have on the screen. There we go, looking nice. You know what, shadow large doesn't look good on the header, so let me say shadow, which is going to be a very slight shadow. There we go, very slight shadow, barely visible. And then what we're going to do is I want to style this navbar for the what is it called, for the mobile version first. So let me place this to the right, and then let me place my code editor to the left. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this. The first thing that I want to do is I want these icons to appear side by side with this. So I'm going to go inside my nav link inside here and give this a class name of, let me say, flex, which is going to place them side by side. There we go. And then item center, and then give them a gap of 4 to separate them out, just a bit to separate them out. That's too big. Let's say gap 2. And we're going to have that. And then now I'm going to go inside the UL, give this a class name of flex once again, which is going to place them side by side like so. And then I'm going to say flex column, so flex dash column to place them downwards. And then I'm going to say give them a gap of 4 to separate them out. There we go, looking fantastic. And then now inside this navbar, I'm going to give this a class name of navbar. And then the reason I'm giving it this class name of navbar is because I don't want to add 100 dynamic styles inside here, because we're going to need to add some kind of dynamism to this navbar when we are opening it and closing it. So inside this navbar, I'm also going to give it a class of open, because we're going to style it the navbar when it is open as well. So I'm going to save this, and then inside our index.css, so index.css, I'm going to go below this and access the navbar, and then I'm going to say this. By default, I want the navbar to be in a fixed position, so let me just say at apply a fixed position, and then bring it to the minus left of 4, meaning it's going to disappear by default. There we go, so that we're going to have nothing. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say what do I want to do here? I want to style the navbar when it is open. So when the navbar has a class of open, so that's how you check it, then we're going to say at apply, and we're going to say apply a left of 0, so bring it back to the left, and we should be able to see it. because we have applied a class of open on our navbar. And then when it has a class of open, then I'm going to say give it a bg of white. Let me see where it goes. And then give it a width of 2/3, meaning 75%. Okay, give it a z index of 30 so that it appears on top of everything. Give it a height of 4 so that it goes all the way to the bottom. And then let's go ahead and give it a padding on the x of 5 to push this content inwards away from the edges. And then let's give it a margin on the top of 10. And you're going to see the reason why I have a margin on the top. That's not correct. We should have a padding on the top so that the background color persists. There we go. And so this is going to be our navbar on mobile. Looks pretty simple, right? On mobile. And by the way, it is navigable, but we're going to fix it so that when you click on the link, then it disappears. Now, what we need to do is this. We also need to have our menu button inside here. So inside the header, let me first of all remove this BG white from here, because as you noticed, it kind of messes up with something here. See this BG white inside here, that is because of the what's it called, the header, and then also because of the padding by the way. So let me remove this from inside here as well. Wait a minute, what did I do? I had BG white and BG white. What? And tailwind didn't. Is my tailwind extension working? I did not notice that. Where's my tailwind CSS? This extension, okay. I hope it's working, because I did not catch that. So you know what, let me just remove all of these styles from inside here and save it. And then we're going to be styling our navbar first of all. And then now what we need to do is we need to import 2 more icons here. So we're going to import an icon called FA bars from React icons /font awesome. And then we're also going to import another icon called gr close from React icons /gr. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create another state value here, which we are going to call is open and set is open. And by default, we don't want the number to appear, so we want this to be a boolean, and it's going to be false by default, meaning we don't want the number to appear by default. And then we're going to say this below the navbar. We are going to go, you know what, let me go above this, and I'm going to render a button. And then inside this button, I'm going to say this. We're going to check for whether is open is true. And if is open is true, then I want to render the gr close, meaning I want to render the close icon when the navbar is open. And then when the navbar is closed, then I want to render the FA bars. So that now when I save this, then we shouldn't be able to see it. And the reason why we're not able to see it is because of the z index of the navbar, because the navbar is always on top. And actually, you know what? Once again, I am wrong. We can see it inside here because it has a position of relative. Now, what we're going to do therefore is this. I'm going to go inside this button, and I'm going to give this button a class name of fixed, because I want it to appear somewhere here on top of everything. And you know what, it's not on top of everything because it has a lesser z index than the z index of 20 that we applied on this navbar. Was it 20 or 30? I think it was 30. So in order to bring it on top, then we're going to give it a z index of 50 so that it is on top of this, so that now it should appear here. And then what we're going to do is, let me see if I say text for Excel whether it's going to increase the font size. Okay, it does. So let me say text to XL, and then I want to bring it downwards. So let me say bring it to the top by 5, and then to the left by 5 as well, so that it is on the same level as this one here. So you can see how it is on the same level here. And the reason why it's on the same level is because the navbar has a padding on the x-axis of 5. And then as you notice, now what we need to do is just bring this navbar downwards. And let's go back inside our index.css, and then let's increase this padding on the top to 20, which is going to push it downwards. There we go. And then now what we need to do is add the click event for this. And by the way, before we add the click event, let me just add a slight transition here. So let me say transition with a duration of about 200, just so that it doesn't pop in once. And then let's go back inside. Why do we need this index.js? We don't need it. We can close it. Let's go back inside our header, and you know what, we can actually close the chat as well. And back inside the header.js, what we're going to do is this. We're going to add an on click on this button. So on click, and we're going to pass in an inline function, and we're going to say that set is open to the opposite of is open. And because it's a boolean, it can only be two values, meaning it can only be true or false. So what we're saying here is if the value is set to false, then when we click on this button, set it to true. And if the value is already true, then when we click on the button again, set it to false. So that is basically what is happening here. And then the icons inside here are dependent on the boolean as well, meaning if it is true, then we render the close icon, and if it is false, then we render our menu bar, which is this one right here. So let me go ahead and save this. And then now nothing should happen except that this toggle should be working. So let me try it out. So let me click. You can see that now we render our close icon, and then when we click on it, we render our bars once again. So the functionality is almost coming together, but it is not quite yet because we need the navbar class name here to be dynamic, dependent on the values, on our state values that we have on top. So what I'm going to do therefore is this. I'm going to remove this part inside here, and I'm going to render my curly brackets and then my backticks, my template literals, and then I'm going to give this a default class of navbar. And then once I do that, then I'm going to pass in my $sign and my curly brackets once again, and I'm going to say that when is open is true, and only when it is true, that's when I want the number to have a class of open. So I'm going to save this, and now this should disappear if it is false. There we go, so it disappears. And then now when I click on this, it appears, and it disappears, and it appears, and so on and so forth. So that's looking nice, that's looking nice. And then now what I want to do is I want the number to have a box shadow. So right inside, where should I do it? I think here, let me add a shadow of large on the number when it is open, so that it has a slight box shadow, so that like you can see kind of where it is. And then it is fixed, that's why it scrolls with us inside here, so that's looking okay. And by the way, this button also scrolls with us, so that's looking okay. Now what we need to do is just scale it up so that the number is going to behave well on larger screens. So I'm going to style it out for large screens right around here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is, because of tailwind, I can just say that for large screens, then bring this back to position of relative. For large screens, bring it to the left of 0. And then that's all we need to do inside here. And then on the bottom where the number is open, we're going to say that for large screens, let me say BG transparent. And then for large screens, the width should be auto. For large screens, the Z index should be auto. For large screens, the height should be auto. For large screens, the padding on the X should be 0. And then for large screens, the padding on the top should be 0. And then for large screens, the shadow should be none. That is going to reset everything inside here. And there we go. So now this is how the number currently looks like on large screens. Now on small screens here, you can see that the number behaves exactly how you want it to behave. And by the way, it has a width of 2/3, so that's why it takes up 75% of the screen. Wait, 2/3 is not 75, 2/3 is 66%. And so now what we need to do is we need to style out this number for large screens. And so what we're going to do is this. The first thing that we need to do is hide this icon inside here. So inside the header, we're going to go inside this button, and then we're going to say that for large screens, then display it as hidden, which is going to make it disappear. And then for small screens, obviously it's going to appear. Okay. And then now what we need to do is this. We are going to go inside the UL, and then we're going to say that for large screens, then this is going to be a flex of row, which is going to bring them in raw form here. And then for large screens, we're going to say item center. And then for large screens, we're going to say justify center, which is going to align them here. Fantastic. And then let me say that for large screens, increase the gap to 6 because I want this gap to increase just a bit. And then let's go inside the header, and now the classes that are going to apply inside this header are only going to be applying on large screens. So on large screens, we're going to say BG white so that it doesn't interfere with everything on small screens. And then for large screens, we're going to say padding Y of 2. For large screens, we're going to say padding on the X of 5. For large screens, we're going to say shadow, so a very slight box shadow. And let me save this. Let's see what you have. This is too small, so let me say padding on the Y of 4. Increase it just a bit. Looking fantastic. How much did I use here? I think I used 6 here, so let me use 6. Was it 6 or what? 6 or 5? I think it was 5 maybe. But yeah, that's looking okay. Fantastic. And that is our navbar on large screens. So that is the navbar on large screens, and then this is the navbar on small screens. Would you look at that, looking fantastic? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it here for the first video because I've gotten a bit tired, and then we're going to do the rest of the pages in the next video. So thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and like the video if you enjoyed what you saw, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and ring the notification bell so that you're always going to be notified of when I upload a new video.